I don't understand this rush to take down the house.
It makes no sense to take it down. If I were the defense, I'd be objecting.
They are getting training records of people the prosecution isn't even calling on.
There's new information in the Bryan Kohberger Idaho murder case that he was watching them for a while.
It's not concerning because it's training records.
If I were the defense, I'd be objecting wholeheartedly. And
this is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Today we have so much stuff to get into. I found some more connections. You're not going to believe what's really going on. Let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about Bryan Kohberger, Dylan Mortensen, and the real reason that Murphy the dog was left unharmed. And we have some breaking news on the Idaho student case. As always, Bryan is innocent until proven guilty. However, because he is the one under arrest and sitting in jail, I'm going to speak to this case in terms of Bryan Kohberger. Bryan has a July 24th deadline, which is weeks and weeks past the original deadline to either provide an alibi or not to the prosecution. And a lot has been made over the fact that the prosecution is allegedly not giving the defense everything that they want, but the same thing is happening from the defense team. They should have provided that alibi on time, and instead they've requested and gotten an extension from the judge. And I'm going to talk about Dylan and why I believe Murphy the dog survived in just a moment, so please stay with me. The prosecution was legally entitled to that alibi weeks ago, and Judge extended it. So information is being withheld, in my opinion, by both sides in this case. However, I have to say that I think the defense is doing a great job of getting their case out there to the public, and Taylor is speaking to us through her defense motions. I've heard some people on social media say that Bryan doesn't have to have an alibi because he was asleep. And I just want to share that his cell phone was being turned on. It was being turned off throughout the night. It was pinging off of different cell phone towers. So it appears he was out and about doing something. So it seems like they would have video footage of him somewhere doing something if he had an actual alibi. I don't think he would be sitting in jail from December 30th to today if he could exonerate himself. But he is innocent until proven guilty. So his car was missing that front license plate. In Washington state, they require a license plate on both the front and the back of the vehicle. But do you know which state does not require a license plate on the front and the back? Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania only requires a license plate on the back of the vehicle. And the white sedan picked up on the one video that we have only has a license plate on the back and not on the front. I've seen a lot of people in the comment section wondering about Bethany and Dylan. Now, some people seem very suspicious of the two roommates, so let's dig into this a little bit more. In my opinion, Dylan and Bethany are going to be important witnesses in this prosecution case, and maybe in the defense case as well. Dylan is the only eyewitness that we know of who saw a masked man with bushy eyebrows dressed all in black, and Bethany saw a man who had removed his clothes and exited out the patio doors. It's very, very scary. Please stay with me. And as I shared with you in my last video, I believe that Bryan was wearing black coveralls, that he had his hair covered, he had his shoes covered, and then he was probably double gloved with a mask to help prevent from leaving his DNA behind at the crime scene. Unfortunately, he lost the knife sheath, and I believe he would have taken off all of these items prior to leaving the 1122 King Road house and had clothes to change into in the Elantra. So he stripped off his clothes, dropped everything into a big trash bag, ran out to the car, and that is probably what Bethany saw. We know the two roommates came home around 2 a.m. in the morning, but we don't know where they were prior to that. We don't know if they had been drinking, but law enforcement would have all of this information because from what I've heard, the interrogation of the roommates were very, very tough in an effort to either exonerate or implicate them, and it appears they were exonerated. And in this case, it seems like the roommates were definitely cleared. I think it's really sad that people are still implicating these roommates because besides the 8-hour time gap, and they have not had their chance to speak, they've been stuck under this gag order. But it seems like their only crime was surviving the attack on their roommates. Because, in my opinion, that is all that they're guilty of. And you're welcome to share yours as well. All opinions are welcome here. This is a Critical Thinkers channel, and you guys are really smart. So what I hope is that we can have an open discussion about all of this in the comment section, with all opinions welcomed and just shared in a respectful way. So let's rethink what happened that night based on what information is in the affidavit. And now I've been through this affidavit a few more times as I'm digging more into the Bryan Kohberger case, and I feel like there's some more things that are definitely starting to fall into place. So first of all, we know that Dylan originally went to sleep in her bedroom on the second floor. We know she was woken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Kaylee playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms. Now, the two upstairs bedrooms were located on the third floor, and Dylan was sleeping on the second floor. So let's say this is true, and that Kaylee was playing with Murphy. And Bryan came up the stairs, and we know Dylan also heard someone say something to the effect of, quote, "There's someone here." So what if this was Kaylee trying to alert Maddie? And Kaylee was in her own room playing with Murphy. Maybe she couldn't sleep. She had been trying to call Jack Decor. And she went into Maddie's room. And I do believe that Maddie was the target. So Bryan would have been caught off guard by the fact that Kaylee was even at the 1122 King Road house. Remember, Kaylee had that new Range Rover, so he would not have recognized her car and may not have realized she was inside the house. So was Bryan caught off guard when Kaylee came out of her bedroom where she was playing with Murphy? So I believe that Kaylee came out of her bedroom, where she was playing with Murphy, and that she was not, in fact, sleeping in the bed with Maddie at that moment when Bryan made it upstairs. She closed her bedroom door with Murphy inside that bedroom and went into Maddie's room to see what was going on and interrupted Bryan. Bryan would have been really caught off guard, in my opinion. And of course, Kaylee and Maddie were caught off guard as well. And this is why Bryan didn't get to finish what I believe he intended to do when he got upstairs to Maddie's room. What do you think? And we're going to continue to talk about this. So if you haven't hit the notification bell and subscribe, please do so you don't miss anything. So I do believe that there was going to be some type of SA gratification on what happened to Maddie, and I believe he was interrupted and this enraged him. And as I shared with you in past videos, I believe that Bryan had peripheral snow, which means that his periphery on his eyesight would have been impaired. So that may have saved Dylan's life when she saw him. She was able to see him, but he was either so flustered coming down the stairs from encountering Kaylee upstairs that maybe he didn't see Dylan due to that, or maybe it was his peripheral snow that protected her. It would explain how Bryan lost that knife sheath partially under and to the side of Maddie, because he was not expecting Kaylee to be on the third floor that night. I do believe he did away with Ethan and Xana on the second floor when he entered. Xana was up with the DoorDash. And I think he was not even aware that Dylan was sleeping on the second floor. Remember, Dylan was originally living on the first floor with Bethany, but had recently moved her bedroom to the second floor. So most of you believe that Bryan had been in the house prior to November 13th, according to an informal survey that we did on one of my live streams. So if Bryan had been in the house, let's say at a Halloween party dressed up in a costume, then he wouldn't have known that Dylan had moved from the first floor to the second floor. He may also not have been aware that Ethan was spending the night that night. Now, the DoorDash delivery would have caught Bryan off guard, but it seems like he just waited outside the house. And again, I'm not saying Bryan is guilty of this. He's innocent until proven guilty, but he is the only one arrested and sitting in jail. So I am going to talk about this case in terms of him. So I think even though he planned this out and I believe he ordered his clothing, which is why law enforcement was subpoenaing multiple stores. And I think he did everything he could to protect himself from evidence transfer like carpet fibers, hair, and skin. I think that he messed up because he was flustered. And I think he was caught off guard by the fact that Kaylee was upstairs that night. And that also explains why Murphy was left untouched. The bedroom door was closed. Kaylee came out. She closed the door behind her. That was probably her habit. I believe Bryan entered the house that night to harm one person. But he was prepared to do more if necessary because nothing was going to get between him and his target. And as I said, he is innocent until proven guilty. Now, a judge has granted Bryan's defense team access to the training records of 3 police officers involved in this investigation, and the university has agreed to delay demolition on the 1122 King Road house. Attorneys for the families of Ethan, Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana have said that the jury might want to see that home. What do you think? Please subscribe and leave me a comment in the comment section below.